But anyway, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to actually be able to chat to you. You've been someone who's been on my radar actually for quite some time, and I don't know how I we haven't linked up until now. I feel like I might have reached out to somebody else to get in touch with you, and it just never materialized. And I was like, hey, maybe if I just go directly to the source, it would probably be easier.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome. It's great to chat.
Thanks for having me, man. Thank you for doing this on Saturday and accommodating my schedule. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
of course, anything for you. If we can go back to the start for a second, which is something I always like to do with people and kind of talk about, I guess, the beginning of your journey. Do you remember a particular moment, maybe a movie or something like that, that really captured your mind that sticks out more than others?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry to be so dull. But a life-changing moment, of course, I love movies like you do as well. I love them. They're comfort food. I watch more movies and TV shows kind of thing. I watch the old ones. I'm just an obsession in a way. I love all kinds of movies too. But no, I'm sorry, it's just lame. My older brother, I was about 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. I was really, 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 really young. And my older brother was a couple years older than me, watched a movie with his friends. And he came home and he was like terrified. He was like really shook. He doesn't watch horror films anymore, which is really funny. Like he only watches mine. But he
Okay.
said, "Oh, come to my friend's place. We want to show you a movie." And he brought me there and they put the VHS tape, this is in the 80s, early 80s. And it was like dangerous. It was a very strange feeling. And they played The Evil Dead. And I was way too young, man. That rocked me, man. Rocked me. I watch this is not a test, my latest film, or like that film is in everything I do, even if I try not to, like most horror directors, I guess. But even when it's in my subconscious or something. So it's that particular one. But also, I mean, the first movie I ever saw in the theater, and that's probably the moment I fell in love with films in general, was
Mhm.
The Secret of Nim. And I was so riveted at the end with the knife, the fight between the rat and the mouse and all that stuff. And I was just so riveted and I was moved and I was emotional and I walked out like really like, wow, that was the best story I've ever seen in my life. And I fell in love with movies, cinema, whatever, then kind of thing.
And it go from that point then to actually getting involved in the industry. Is that
Yeah.
something like at that moment it's like, oh yeah, this might be something I might be interested in, or did that come like way further down the line?
Way later. I was just a fan. I was just one of those you get kids in high school where everybody went to see a Kid and Play movie. And I would beg one of my friends to go see The Guardian.
Nice.
Yeah, like the horror movie The Guardian, because I'd much rather see that. So like that's what I was doing. And I was, we were in Fangoria magazines and all that stuff, but I was just a fan. I just liked the movies. I liked horror films. I rented them all. I love the old VHS boxes and stuff. But no, I didn't think I could, man. I didn't know what to do. I didn't go to film school. Like I worked in a snowboard shop. I barely got out of high school. I failed grade 9. Like I was living like with friends and stuff like that at an early age, just bouncing off, from couch to couch. It's a long story, but I didn't have like a real clear vision. I just knew I wanted to be in the arts, and I thought music maybe, but there's nothing. But what happened was when I was 19, so I was older, I joined an acting class just for an exercise because it scared me, and I fell in love with it. I've absolutely fell in love with it, and of course that echoes or links up to film, and it all made sense. But at first I thought I wanted to be an actor in horror films. I wanted to be in thrillers and horrors, and that was my dream, but it never happened. And then really as an actor, I think I was in like 2 horror films, but there's nothing I wanted to do really. And then George Romero moved to Toronto and auditioned for him for 2 of his movies or 3 of his movies. And I was so bummed, man, that I didn't get in. So bummed. One of my friends got in one of his movies, and I was so jealous. And that's when I said to myself, "Fuck it, I'm not going to try to get in the movies. I'm going to make them now, and see if I'm good at it." I didn't know if I was good at it, or I still question that sometimes, But like, I did a short film, a zombie film, my first
Mm-hmm.
short film for Bravo Fact. I did it's called Somber Zombie, and it just made sense. It fit. I was on set in that position, and being an actor at that point for years and years, and I was very comfortable. I was like fish to water. It just made sense to me. Everything did. So I just did a bunch of short films, and eventually Backcountry happened, changed things. So
It just seems so like, because obviously I know it's a life's work. It's the thing, people see you have a movie that's like well regarded, and they figure, oh, it's overnight success, lucky for you. And there's this whole life's journey to get to a point of that. But to make that decision to go from, you know what, I'm not going to be in the movies, I'm going to make the movies. And even you go into your first short, how does that, you said you felt comfortable, and I definitely can feel that. And I think in your movies, you can feel that, that comfortability, that, that where you are, if that makes sense. But like all the other aspects, like the technical aspects, I talk to so many different filmmakers, and you get the guys who have done like the whole college, university, all that kind of stuff, and it's very like, I was doing a contra shot and a thing and doing it. When you don't come from that background, how difficult is it to make the transition? Obviously, you love the thing, you've got the creativity for it, but then as these projects step up, obviously, I'm sure you're around other people who are very technically minded and maybe took that route. If you get me?
Oh no, totally. I didn't. I took the other way. That's why, like, I understand way more now, obviously, with cameras, apertures, this, lenses, all the tools, like way more now. But I still work with DPs who know way more than me, and I like that, because I feel like a director's job is very strange on set. It's like you're in charge of everything on set, but you do nothing. It's very weird, right? Even though I get involved more. But when I did the short film, I was adamant, like I was very committed to not be an actor in that film. I wanted to see it from that side only, to commit to it and go for it that way. So where I felt comfortable, it was like, oh, you have a taste. I know what I want to see. Then you realize that's it. If you have a vision and you can describe that vision, you can explain that vision, the DP or the people you're working with in prosthetics, they're ecstatic, because they're like, this person has a vision, I know what I'm doing, and they know what they want. Now let them use their tools creatively to get there. So you're like, I want it to feel like this and look like this. And then they can figure out that technical to say this, I want this movement and this feeling. So I was just always going for feelings. That's it. I had to feel it. And I knew, being an actor too, if I'm not seeing it on the screen, it's not, you don't fix that in post. You have to see it. You have to feel it. So I'm very much that way. So I really like direct from my heart that way. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve when I'm directing. Like I'm feeling what the actors are feeling. And I think every director should take an acting class, because some don't know how to talk to you, or actors, something are intimidated by the actors. Some don't know, they just think they show up on the mark and just do it. Like you have to, and they're all different. You have to manage that, and it's very particular. So me I was acting for like years and years and years. So I knew exactly what it felt like to be in front of the camera. That was so valuable.
Was that a difficult, and I know the answer is probably ultimately going to be no, because I think you're drawn to whatever it is that your heart, your soul, or whatever desires. But, like you said, you had been acting for a long time and been in a lot of stuff. Was it difficult at all then to kind of, I don't want to say throw that away, but like to say, I'm going to completely do a 180 to a degree, and instead of being on this side of the camera, I'm going to be over there now, and kind of start from complete scratch again?
Well, okay, that's a loaded question, because the answer is no, right? Like you said, but no, man, it is not easy, as nothing is really. But I loved acting when it was working. I did a show called Rookie Blue I loved. I met Missy Peregrine on that, and we became good friends, and she was in 2 of my movies, right? I love working with her. But it wasn't, I got to a place where I was dealing with like performance anxiety at one point that I didn't know came out of nowhere, depending on the scene. Like it's hard to show up on a set. You don't know anybody. You got a monologue. You got to show up, and you just got to do it. And it's on TV. It's not easy. You don't know. It's first day of school. You don't know anybody. You go on your mark and get 2 pages of exposition. That's the hardest thing to do. So I started dealing with performance anxiety, and I didn't like it as much going to set, depending on the role. And I realized that, like, some actors, every role is great. Every whatever they're doing is great. And so even it's like they like it's game day, but I wasn't feeling that. I was like, it had to be a specific role to really enjoy it. I started losing my joy for it. But when I was directing, it didn't matter. I could be directing anything. And or creating that way, I just felt comfortable. And I was, I'll drop a name for you. It's stupid, but we're so lucky to have David Cronenberg, who's like a genius director or legend director in Canada. And everybody, we all love him in the genre community, and he's done some pretty epic films. And I directed him on set, right? Like the first day, I was a little giddy. I was a little nervous, but in a good way. I couldn't wait to meet him and work with him. But I wasn't crippled by anxiety at all about working with him. And one day of shooting, that season 4, he sat behind me for like hours watching me work. And if I knew he was going to do that, I would have been like, whoa, I would have been probably freaked out a little bit. But he was wrapped, but he was kind of chilled. He was in the background watching me, but I didn't feel out of sorts. Like I was on the ice or whatever. I was in the field playing, and I felt comfortable. I was like, give me the ball. Like I was fine. We're acting, I was struggling with a bunch of stuff. But to your point, like it's not easy. So I kept acting, and I did like a shows like Wild Roses for CBC, but I was always like writing my scripts, trying to get a movie made. It took years. It took so long to get Backcountry off the ground, or like a feature off the ground. I wrote one script to a full-length script that I was hoping to make. It was a turd. It was terrible. My wife read it. That was crap. I didn't give up. I wrote another one, right? So like a Backcountry came out of that. I wrote a new one. So I could have given up. But anyway, I'm all over the place. But I'll tell you, man, it's like there was a moment I was writing Backcountry, my first feature, and I was halfway through and I was about to close the computer because I was like, oh, this is not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to get it made. It's been years and years. My first feature was crap, script. I'm like, what am I doing? Let's just focus on acting. It's fine. And I was about to close the computer, and I was like, if I close the computer, I'm never going to open it again. So I just, okay, let me just finish the paragraph. And I finished that script. And of course, that one changed my career trajectory. But no, because like even when Backcountry did well, there were some offers, I got a great agent in LA, like things opened up. I met a bunch of people, things were happening, but I was struggling. Like you're saying, back to square one. So it was I'll be very honest with you, but it was very sobering and strange to be like, I didn't want to act anymore, but I didn't mind doing commercials if I could, just to make a bit of money, because I had a newborn baby and it was very stressful because money was going down, And I went like in the morning, I go to an audition for a cow, to be a cow in a commercial. And I'm not bullshitting you. A cow. And at night, I'm talking to the president of Screen Gems about a movie they want me to direct.
That's like,
so, hey man. So, but I was saying no to a lot of opportunities at first. And one of my friends who was one of the writers on Castle, one of my closest friends, he was like, well, you're saying no to all these opportunities directing. Like, if you're like struggling, then what the fuck you doing? Like, say yes to more things, right? But I was very precious on what the next movie would be after Backcountry. So so that's why Pyewacket came out of that, my second one.
I have so many questions from
hit me.
That. Yeah, and like I will say, I feel like the more people I talk to, there's always kind of a little bit. Obviously, the stories are vastly different. There's different circumstances, different things that go on. But the one through line I always see is like all of you guys seem to have that innate, like that thing inside you that like will not let you. I don't want to say accept no, but I think that's the thing you've got to have to keep going. Like you mentioned, newborn baby, scripts not working out, financial things, all those things to a lot of people would just make them go, you know what, let me just go back to whatever I was doing, or let me get a job in a grocery store or whatever. and then it always seems to be the select few that are like, I really can't see myself doing anything else. I don't really want to do anything else
Hmm.
other than this.
Hmm.
Would you say that that's solely what like carried you through, is like that desire
But now we're getting,
to
yeah,
create?
now we're getting heavy. But yes, 100%,
Mm.
100%. So you have to understand, um, when Backcountry came out, it did so well for me and
Yeah.
everybody involved, and I'm so proud of that movie. But yeah, like you have, doesn't mean the money starts rolling in, of course not. Opportunities may do, they come and go, and you're still like no guarantees. So like a year would go by, and yeah, you got a crying baby, or you're in debt, you don't know what you're doing, and then you kind of panic. And then yeah, there's a crossroads. You're like, well, I might as well just give up, or I did that movie and I'll go get a job at a grocery store and just go back to acting or start teaching or whatever, acting or something, which is fine. But I I now understand that quote. Sometimes it's like, if you have to want it like air.
Yeah.
I always think, oh, that's a nice metaphor, I guess, or like like some people can understand that when they're so purposeful in their life that they have to get there, they have to make this happen, or they'd rather die not doing it. That's what happens. You have that moment, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm in this situation, put myself in the situation, but I achieved the dream especially the first feature. I went to TIFF. I was pinching myself. It was great. Like everything I was hoping for. And like the horror community was embracing the film at the time, which meant the world to me. You're meeting new people. It's astonishing. But then the other side of it is the struggle, and things wear off. The offers kind of wear off, and one company comes to you and they're ready to like hire you on a film, and there's like real money there, and you say no because the script is so bad, and you feel like, you talk to people and they're like, what are you doing? Why'd you say no? And I was like, what I said was, that could be a career ender anyway. If I just take the money
Mm.
and I make this film that I don't believe in, that's not fair to the company, that's not fair to my agents, not fair to me, and then I make it and it's a turd, and an absolute turd that I can't stand behind, then the career's done. Good luck, made
Yeah.
possibly. Then it's going to be really hard. So lucky I have a great partner with my wife, Danny, and she, she was very supportive. She believed in me, but it was hard for us. Yeah, for one point before, in between Backcountry and Pyewacket. But Pyewacket, why that happened was, I had this epiphany where, okay, like Backcountry, if I'm going to continue, I got to create it. I have to write another one, obviously. No, but it was like you're spinning because it was so hard to get the first one off. So you're kind of scared, like, oh, I'm gonna climb the mountain again. Like, hopefully I get just another offer. I'll just say yes. Like, no, whatever. But that's how Pyewacket came, and I put all my energy into that. The whole story hit me so hard. I used some of my life, my background with my mother and everything, and then it just came together so fast. And I wrote it out of me. It was like so cathartic, and I was in the right headspace. And that movie was crazy because I finished the script in like a month. I was on fire writing it. I was just because you're like you're saying, like, it's like air to breathe. It's like, I'm either going to die or do this. So let's do it. And my agents were excited about it. People were excited about it. But it went to camera less than a year after it was written, which is unheard of. But there was a moment where it was going to get made or not going to get made. There was like a week
Right.
of like a window of the financing was going to fall through or happen. That was a really tough week, because even my wife was like, are all our eggs in one basket with this movie right now? I'm like, yes. She's like, don't ever let that happen again. And luckily it worked out. But I've never been to that place again. So
which
after that.
is good, I guess. But I feel like from the more stories I hear, it's like, I don't know, it's like people kind of feel like they need that crucial moment you're talking about, like the crossroads of like, okay, am I gonna go back to being like everybody else, which, like you said, is fine, but there's no real point in doing that if like I've heard many different people make the analogy about like the grocery store, and it has nothing to do with there being an issue with working in a grocery store. It's just
No.
the thing of, if you're going back to that grocery store and you're going to stock shelves and spend the next 50 years miserable and beating yourself up about why didn't I just do it? Why didn't I just try? Why didn't I keep going? Then it's an issue.
Yeah.
And it's just it's I think it's really refreshing as well for like young filmmakers, writers, creators, whoever it is, to kind of hear that. It's quite sobering, but at the same time, it's like you said, you know, if I do this thing, I actually know two people personally who made that decision where they made a movie that they, through probably financial pressure and necessity, and it was like I've got to do this. It's a big-ish IP that I can be involved in. Let me do it. But they didn't really feel like they were behind it, and then it comes out, and like you said, it's a polished turd, but it's still a turd.
It's sad, but you know, but this, yeah, I know.
And like I spoke to one of them afterwards, and like he always says, he was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to make another movie off the back of this now, because it's just been like, I didn't realize, I assumed if I put my name near this IP that it would be fine regardless of how it was received.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And then whatever money I did make financially has now worn out in the 5+ years I haven't worked since. So like, this was a bad idea.
I mean, you're echoing exactly what the scenario was.
Yeah.
I hope they're fine. I hope they make another one. But I was at that crossroads for sure, and I knew it. So I said, if the ship's going to sink, it's going to sink because I'm on board and I'm making it sink. It's not going to sink on its own. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make a decision. So if like it's got to be one of my films, one of my passion projects, I'll sink with that, because then I will have no regrets. But it's not going to be your ship that I'm going to be on sinking. No way. So I just couldn't do it. But then it's always navigating that integrity, right? Because sometimes, you know, yeah, you just got to believe in it. Like I was on the crossroads again with this one other movie. There's two movies. One that was a much bigger budget, more money and all this stuff. I was with it. But another passion project with a lot less money. And I asked a director who's pretty known in Hollywood and everything, and just some advice. And he said, there's no question, go with the passion project. You answer your own question. You're going to regret it forever. And he used one of his films as an example. And I went, oh my God, is that how that exists? Because he did a really big film and then he did a small film. And the small film actually helped his career way more than the big film. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, it's so clear to me right now. So
it's kind of, I suppose, wild to hear that, because, you know, I'm sure there's people that would, and I don't know if you've gotten this, but you know, the thing of being like, people see you've got some movies, they've had success. They're, some of them, like something like Backcountry, I would say has cult following already.
Sure.
I hear that recommended back to me, or like people who I know in my like outer circles that are not, you know, horror fans, not fans of thriller, not really fans of any kind of, you know, that style of movie, and be like, oh dude, I seen this movie, fucking bit, it's about a bear and it's this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that's been out, and they're like, oh my God, it's so good, oh my God. And like, then you kind of know it's in like the I suppose the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel that a bit sometimes. Sometimes I get letters and stuff or notes. And
how does that feel? Like you know, you mentioned earlier about being a fan and like seeing something like Evil Dead, or trying to get people to go to the movies to watch things, and you know, reading Fangoria. To go from being there to like where you're at now is like, how does that feel? Like, do you ever get time? I know, because I know it's probably, you know, it's always the next thing, and what's coming next, and what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
But like, do you get a chance to ever, you know, without like blowing smoke, like genuinely reflect, or like sit with your wife and be like, you know, we like, I've not that I've done it or I've made it, but like, you know, to go from not knowing which direction I was going in at 19 to being like where we are right now.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, yeah, for sure. But very rarely. I mean, it's definitely what you're saying. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And you're like, you know, you don't want to rest on any laurels, and it's also cheesy, and you don't want to be that person, because because especially if you're still motivated to make things and create things and add more, and you know, because you make the movies for people like anybody, like you. Like I'm making my movies for you, like I am. Like, this is not a test. I made that for you. Like, I make it for me too. I want to see the movie. I want to see, I'm so proud of it, but I'm making it for you to have an experience. Right. So I still have that feeling, but of course there's moments of, sometimes when it gets a little hard or it slows down, you're a little unsure, or you have a couple of bumps in the road. For sure. Like, I remember sometimes I'll, stop and think, yeah, that person who was, that made that first short film and was, I was always reading the trades, or always reading Fangoria, Bloody Disgusting, and Dread Central. They were there back then as well. And reading about the new horror films, seeing The Ring when no one else wanted to see it in 2003, like first weekend, I'm like there Friday night, which was an awesome experience, by the way, because it was like
I can only imagine.
No, it was great because I went there because I was the horror, like I was with my friends and they knew like, oh, the new 20 Days Later was coming out. I was like, I'm going to go see it. I can't wait. And they're like, oh yeah, you like horror, don't you? Like I didn't have many friends that like horror. I still don't. And I would just go and be there in the first weekend. But The Ring was great because when the girl's in the closet, when the mother says you didn't see her face when she was investigating, and then opens the door of the closet and her face falls, this woman got up and just went, she was screaming. She's just like, hell no, hell no. And there's like only like 15 of us in the theater because it wasn't a big hit yet. It was like the Friday. And she just walked right out. And all of us started laughing watching The Ring. But that movie was brilliant. I love what that gave me. So yeah, sometimes I'll, of course you have to, because it makes you, especially when you're down a little bit, where you go, holy shit, like some of the dreams did come true. Like you think, they mention you here, or they talk about your movie here, or you people that were your heroes, you can say that, and their acquaintances or even friends, and you're like, wow, how did this happen? And you look back at that guy, that guy trying to get in, doing things, and then all of a sudden your name's there, your movies are mentioned, and and it's for sure. But I never like have a moment like I don't feel like I've made it ever.
Yeah, no, I know.
Maybe one day. I mean, I don't. Do you ever? But it happened actually recently. I was talking to my friend who just got a huge book deal. Okay. And it's so impressive. It was unbelievable, like life-changing, massive deal. And he brought me to tears when he was telling me, because I know how much he struggled. And we were talking, and I was like, you kind of made it, he's like, I guess so. And he's like, well, you did. And I was like, and if you want to say I'm doing what I want to do, I'm working in the genre I love. I get to do shows with one of my best friends, Ian Carpenter, doing slasher. Having someone like Aaron Martin, who created that show, who loves Backcountry, and I got the job because of that. To like have a movie coming out. I have a great kid. I'm still energized with life and everything, and I love writing. And then, yeah, if that's what it is, right? I don't want to say this out of school or whatever, because he was on a podcast, but there's a great director, Alexander Aja, right? If I pronounce that, Aja, I never say it right. But he did, of course, Switchblade Romance in your part of the world, but it's High Tension in our part of the world. And I love that film. I mean, when that came out, I was showing all my friends, I don't care if you don't like horror, check this out. And my cousin who was in Backcountry, Jeff Roop, he was the lead, and I showed him that movie, and he wasn't really into horror at all. But I said, you got to see this movie. It's bonkers in the best way, and he loved it. The music, the needle drops were so great. Anyway, he had a story in a podcast, and I never forgot, that echoes this, where he was like, he was going to do a movie, I think about a taxi driver or something to do with a taxi, and he didn't want to do it. I think he said, God, I don't know him at all, so I don't know if he would be like, no, that's not what I said. But what I remember is that he was going to do the movie, but he was miserable and sleepless nights because he knew his heart wasn't in it, that he took it for the wrong reasons, that he was really torn up about it, and he was just shit scared, or like really mad at himself. And the lead actor got hurt apparently before shooting, so they had to postpone the shoot. And when they postponed the shoot, he got out.
Oh, I have heard this.
And I love that story because he's like, he didn't get to do the movie And he said, I will never, ever, ever, no matter what, put myself in that position again of like doing something I really don't want to do. But look at his career. That's the thing, because when your compass is, you're guided by something more honest, better things happen. They just do. They unravel in a better way because you're coming from a place of that in tune, we'll say, if you want to believe with the universe or something, or just like, I think better things happen when you're coming from your heart in an honest place. So he did Crawl, he did these other movies. He's a brilliant director. I'm a big fan of his. But there you go. Like, he'll never let that happen again. And I believe him, because there's never a good story, whether you're an actor as well. I took it for the money. Nothing ever seems to ever good come out of that in the art anyway, in the arts.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because I mentioned earlier, I know two people who kind of got, I guess, fucked up from the whole taking things for financial reasons or whatever life situation. And the other person I know was actually a last minute replacement, I guess, on a project that was already greenlit with a different director. Oh, wow. And the original directors got to set. People now, I guarantee you, when people listen to this back, they'll try and figure out what I'm talking about. When they got to set, they just realized that the entire situation was completely different. The studio and some producers were way more involved in what was going on, and the script was changing like day of.
I think I know the movie you're talking about.
And they were like, yeah, no, we're good. We're out of here. And it's like that's got to be, I don't want to say a hard situation to be in, because you're like, not sure if I walk away from this now, is this going to bury me forever? But my heart is not in it. I don't feel like it's right. And it's like, does that happen often? Like, where, I don't want to say people get tricked into situations, but like, the studio or whoever, the backers want what they want. And, at the end of the day, it's their money. Like, I always hear about studio interference or financial backers that kind of want to interfere maybe then as it's happening and be like, no, we should like put this in. I don't know how much weight I put in that, because I personally, like, I have no idea. I have no skin in the game, but I've heard of it multiple times, like where the executive who wanted to be a writer or director decides to come in and be like, you know what, we should just like put like some dude in here and make his character do something. And you're like, why?
Well, the Rob Zombie thing with Halloween, that's like the biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of a nightmare. I mean, I've heard stories of directors. I'm not going to say the who or the movie, but like, I had a friend who worked on the set as a camera operator, and he said that they would shoot all day, and the next day they'd reshoot everything with how the studio wanted to shoot it. Are you kidding me? Wow. It was like bloated, and they went over budget and everything, and they did more and more days, and I don't think they've worked since. But it was like, they would have another shot list that they would just go in, like plug and play and just do it. And, wow. Like, anyway, no, for me, I don't know yet, to be honest, because not really. I mean, I had a very strong creative producer on Backcountry, but, we butted heads here and there, but we were creatively in sync in many things. And the trust was built eventually, and he supported me for sure. And he was, he's a smart guy. So you kind of want that too. You do want to be challenged at times because you want to like be strong in your convictions. Like, you know what to do, because it's a bit of a conundrum, because you're like, you want me to have a vision. That's what you're paying me for. That's what I'm doing. And to kind of muscle in your own defeats the whole purpose of what I'm doing. So it's like, if it's like to help my vision, to support my vision, to make my vision better, let's do it. Of course, you have to be malleable in some ways, but you have to know what you want. Really have to know what you want. Like Del Toro's a good example of that. Or James Cameron, he's tyrannical, they say, but he has a vision. So that's what they're paying you for. And you want that, but you want to be pushed. You want to be challenged too, to make whatever you're doing a bit better. I don't mind that at all. But no, I mean, I haven't had the luxury or the to do a studio film, a big one yet. I've been close a couple of times, but like I've heard, you know, be careful what you wish for, right? I mean, yeah, I'd love to meet Sam Raimi, obviously. I don't know, of course, and I'd love to imagine we work together. That'd be a dream come true, obviously, like many directors in the genre. But I don't know what that would be like with a big studio. It's a dream of mine to do one. I definitely want to do a bigger movie. But what does that entail? What is going to be more cooks in the kitchen? It's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't wait to go. I want to go back to my smaller films where I have more control. But it happens like this latest one. This is not a test. You know, there's my biggest budget, biggest movie for sure. But they trust your movies. They've seen your movies. They want that. They want you to do your thing, and they're trying their best to help you. Like Sybil is the producer, and she was phenomenal because she really believed in me and she really supported me all the way. But she also challenged me in the best ways too. Like, you know, like the first cut of the movie, she was like, listen, like whatever zombies we have or whatever we have, don't put as much as we have in of them, right? Like this is don't forget about them kind of thing. And she was absolutely right. And there's one scene I cut out because I thought it was too boring. I mean, I won't say the scene, but I was like, oh, this is not working. I can get it, you know, I don't want to. It's a beautiful little scene, but I was like, I don't know. But when you know you test screen, you show people and everybody, including the producer, but everybody's saying that scene is great. You can't take that scene out. You have to listen to that too. You have to be honest with yourself. You got to say, okay, but you know there are things where you're like, there's a moments where you go, no, I'll die on this hill. So no, I'm dying on this hill, and it feels good because you know what those markers are. You got to pick your battles very carefully. But in terms of like weaving the tapestry or like building the tapestry, the materials that we're going to work with, like, no, I don't want anybody on set telling me where to put a camera. I don't want anybody on set telling me, you know, how to do something to help me do something that I want to do that I don't understand technically. Yes, of course. But I also walk on set knowing what I want to see. And some actors are better at being like, okay, he has a vision. I love it. Where do you want to go? Yep. And some want to play more, and then but it's a game because you want to listen to their ideas too. You don't want to shut them out. You know, I did that once and like I'll never do it again. That's one thing. I did shut an actor down once and I'll never do it again because you'll never know. You might get a nugget of something precious because I was you know, it changes all the time. It's like meeting new people, and every time you work with new actors, there's a new kind of like a conversation you got to like, or you got to get to know each other and how they work and everything. But if I don't get what I see in my mind and how I'm feeling about the movie or like whatever, if I walk away and I know I didn't get it, or you're being too malleable, you're just being too like, oh, sure, it'd be easier to just do that. Sure, no problem. And you're not doing the movie you want to do at all. That I would rather die than, because like, you know, sometimes you have to say like to some people, you'd be like, well, we could do that, but I have to stand in front of an audience and introduce the movie. I can't introduce the movie if I don't believe in it. It's not going to happen. And sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're right. But every time I walk away, like the bear attack is a good example in Backcountry. Like I knew exactly what I wanted. And it was a great couple days of shooting because there was no room to talk about anything because there was no time, but I knew exactly every shot I wanted to do. And the producer was so happy at the end of the shoot. He was like, he was so happy. He was worried. He's like, is it just going to be like figuring it out? Like he was very supportive. And then it turned out good.
Incredibly good. I mean, that has a serious amount of, like, I've seen Backcountry a lot. And like for some reason, every time that scene hits, I'm still a bit like, I feel like I'm a bit like,
that's what I want.
But yeah, which is like you don't get that often.
You know when you're getting pushed in the wrong ways. You know when you're getting pushed the wrong ways, and you know when to stand up for yourself, and you know when to like. It's different with TV. Obviously, it's much different. Like on Slasher, they're very open, and I can interpret scenes because they want me to bring my sensibilities into the show. But there's certain things that are very important. Like we don't want to do that. Great, it's different. They're the boss. It's different than a film, but a film, it's like, that's my DNA. This is what I want to say. And then you go for it. And then I'm thrilled at the end. And I'll give you something about the bear attack. Just say, you got to work with people too. You have to work with people. And so when I did the first cut of the bear attack, I made the bear very realistic because I did so much research. So I didn't have him roaring all the time. I had him like roaring a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And the producer, Thomas, the producer, he goes, God, just put in more roars, please. I'm begging you. Just do it. Like, just make it. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let's throw in some more pepperoni on the pizza. Fuck it. But I went in the next day. It was the same scene. We just added more. And they're in there because people responded to that more. And it's the same. It was the same scene, just added or took away a couple of moments and put in a roar instead. 2 or 3 shots. That's it. And it changed. It made it like, oh, just a little better. So, and then instead of like going, no, it's my thing, what probably was like at the beginning when I first started, but not anymore.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Rob Zombie's Halloween because like I've done an extensive amount of research into like that whole production and like listened to pretty much everything he's ever said about it. And there's one thing that always stuck out with me. He was like, the difference he noticed in going from like making his own kind of smaller movies to something like that. He was like, I realized over time that if I really, really, really like wanted to like die on a hill about something that I just wasn't willing to budge on in the big studio setting, I had to make it their idea. So I had to figure out a way to make it the Weinstein's idea that I wanted. And then when they go, yeah, you know what we should do? We should like do a thing. And he go, perfect. Yeah, okay, that's a great idea. Which is a unique skill in itself. And he was like, that was the biggest thing I noticed going from like, this level of movie to like this huge studio where there's all these extra people. He was like, it's just having like you said, like maybe some of the decisions were okay, like adding some of this, taking some of that out, that's all fine. But if there's something I really, really need, I have to figure out how to convince you that it's your idea. You want this.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Or sometimes, I mean, this is the truth. Sometimes you can get notes, especially from the studios or something, or the producers, not the producers really, because you're really making the film with the producer. You got to have a good relationship with them. You have to, because they want to help you. They want to make the best. Their name's on there too, but they're trying to push you to do your best as well. You want that relationship, and they have to love your movies. That helps. But sometimes you'll get notes from like the distributors, and you just send the movie back and they go, okay, great. Didn't change anything. Like, you don't want to be too cheeky doing that, but you're like, if some notes are just, this is insane. I don't know if you've seen Pyewacket. This is a great example.
Yeah, of course.
That I love that. It's a very personal movie to me. And probably, it was very fun to make. And we did a test screening of the movie, a big test screening, with the studio and everything. And it was like whatever. It did not test well at all. Huh. So, but this is what I learned something. So some people involved panicked.
Okay.
And they were like, well, maybe we have to shoot stuff with the father now. Can we make the father a ghost? Can we? And I was just like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. Because they wanted to fix something. There's like, can we just add the dads? The dad's dead in the movie. And I was like saying things like, the whole point of the movie is that he's absent. That's the whole point of the movie. And it's not in the movie.
We can't just shoehorn him in.
He can't be a ghost. This is crazy. And they're just throwing stuff, just throwing it out there like crazy. And it was just like, I'm not turning this movie into something else. I'm not going to let her and her mother come together to defeat the evil together like some movie of the week. It's not going to happen. And this is, I wish I knew his name. So the person that was conducting the screen test was on the call, and he goes like, whoa, okay, everybody, just let me, I need to say something. And there's like maybe 12 of us, 15 of us on this call. And he goes, I don't normally say this, but I would ignore the numbers on this one. He got really quiet. And he goes, I would, because usually with these kind of numbers, you have walkouts, you have people shuffling in their seats. You can tell they're not into it anymore. People get on their phones. People like start writing. They're doodling, looking around. They start talking. He goes, the last 20 minutes of this movie, no one moved in the cinema. No one moved in that theater. No one walked out. They were glued, and I was watching everybody. And he goes, "You guys have a good movie." That's all I'm going to say. And it changed. After that, it just changed. He's like, "You had that audience glued to that screen, and that's what we're trying to do." So, and I was like, on the phone. I was like, "Thank you for saying that." He's like, "Yep, I mean it." So I would just, these numbers don't reflect the audience.
Isn't it funny how human nature is like that, where it's like, you know, we're on a ship or whatever, and someone sees a small bit of water coming in. It's like, right, we should just all jump off the ship right now. Let's not try and let's not try and see this through and see what we're going. Let's work together. Maybe I'll just jump off before everybody else, or maybe I'll get in a lifeboat and just try and sail away and be like, I don't know if that's like I suppose I'm calling it human nature. I feel like that's what people do in situations of stress, where it's like,
of course, don't blame them, because like their job's on the line too, right? Like they've greenlit the movie. It's their money. That's why in the studios, there's some directors who can really navigate that studio system, right? Because it is a job. They want to do it. They're good at it. I want to get there where it's like, yeah, you can be malleable. You can work with the studio system to be like, this is what we're doing. We're doing Jurassic World. We're doing this. The dinosaurs have to do this. Just make it look as best as possible. Yeah, because it's not your movie at that point. You make it your movie with your sensibilities, but it's so big that it's not a personal movie. It's different.
Yeah.
You're working Cirque du Soleil. You're working a big production. That's a skill, man. And that's fun. Like, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. I see people giving Gareth Edwards a lot of shit, who done, Jurassic World Rebirth and stuff like that. And
he did a good job.
Yeah, like, and it wasn't him. Somebody else literally said, like, nearly verbatim what you just said about the idea of like, no, there's a difference between when I've gotten into this system, and this was some other notable director. He was like, I do one for me, I do one for them. And it's like, and that's how you've got to look at it. And when I'm doing one for them, I need to understand like what that is. It's not my personal movie about my relationship with my dad, or lack of, or putting in my things. I'm making a blockbuster epic movie about dinosaurs escaping an island. So that's what I need to make.
Yeah. And it's like, can I get passionate about making a fourth Evil Dead movie? Yeah. If there's less control, of course. Oh my God. Right. It's when you can make those films personal. Like, that's why Slash has been so good for me, because it's not a personal project, but it becomes a personal project. So I'm starting to learn within those, because I interpret their writing. They're the boss. So it's interesting, but yet the flavors, how it looks, how it feels, I have a lot of, that's what I'm doing. Right. So
is it safe to say that if you got the chance to, every now and again I ask this question about, if you could get involved in an IP right now, or make a movie in an existing franchise or something like that, am I correct in saying Evil Dead would probably be pretty high up on that list?
Yeah, no, probably. I wouldn't want to fuck it up. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Is that something that's ever come up, or like you mentioned before about studio movies? And I'm sure I've been, and not in an offensive way, but I've had conversations sometimes, and then afterwards, had a minute or two to chat with somebody, and they've mentioned some of the things that fell through, and I've been like,
no, the movies that I was in the pool for, or whatever, or around, like one of the Purge movies, Conjuring, but very minimal. Like, like you're just in the pool. Your name's being thrown around a little bit.
Is that if you've ever had him, I don't know if you get pulled into like a Zoom meeting or something like that, and that's how those things progress, but is that a skill in itself?
For sure. Sure. Being an actor helps a lot. Yeah. Pitching, because I've done that. Yeah, for sure. Like, I like doing it. I loved, actually, it's nerve wracking, but I love doing it because I know what it feels like to go into a room and for hundreds of auditions of words that you're so controlled. You're doing a scene with words, with the pitch, they're my own words. I can be who I am. So I'm very comfortable that way. But it's easy when you're pitching what when you're like, I'm passionate about this project. I can talk about this project forever. And this is, this is the show. This is what you're doing. And if in some pitches, I'd walk away going, listen, this is what I would love to do. This is what I'm seeing. This is how I'd love to bring this to life or whatever. And I walk away. So if they're not into that, then we're not going to work together. Like that's that simple. So at first I'd be like, a little hurt, like, oh, damn, maybe I want to give them what they want, so that get the job, like, whatever you want to do, they don't want that either. They want you to have a vision. Like I met on I'll tell you, like I met on was it The Cabin at the End of the World, which ended up being Knock at the Cabin. Yeah. I had a meeting on that one. There's a bunch of people on the Zoom. You're talking and they're like, I wanted to make it an ambiguous ending, and they really wanted to make it a definite ending. I was like, no, the best thing about the movie is that it is ambiguous. That's the beauty of it. That's the horror of it. That's the, you can interpret it. That's what I love about it. And they had a whole script where it was, it had a lot of like outside the cabin and this whole thing about these people and how they got infected by this evil thing. And it was like a very base kind of like possession thing at one point. And I was like, it's not the movie at all, like the book at all. And I said, try to explain to not be afraid to like live in the cabin, to be in the cabin. But, but also like a director, like a creator, they're trying things too. They're just trying to feel what feels right. Like your guy Lee is Cronin, who's from Ireland. Like he did that movie Hole in the Ground, which is similar to Pyewacket in many ways, where, good for him. Like he got that movie and someone saw it that wanted to meet him. And then he goes to LA and meets Sam Raimi apparently and says like, hey, what do you want to do? I want to do another Evil Dead movie. And it happens, and like after Backcountry, I had those kind of opportunities, but I never had the moment of saying, hey, let's do another Evil Dead. So I'm he's lucky. He made a good movie. That was a good movie. So
yeah, and I guess it's one of those things. It's like like we spoke about overnight success and stuff like that. But you've got to be like, people say, oh, you got to be right place, right time. And it's like, I don't think that really comes unless you're working your ass off.
Oh yeah,
over. Like you can't just be in the room by mistake. Like just fall into the room and go, hey, I just ended up in this meeting. I'm not sure how.
No, like I was like going to Ridley Scott's office. Didn't meet him, but I was like walking by his office, see his name on the thing, and you're like, oh wow, I'm speaking to his second in command or whatever, his right hand person about projects. And you're like, oh, weird. This is crazy. Is
that a weird? Yeah, is that a weird like? I always talk to people about imposter syndrome and stuff, and is that a weird place to be in the sense of like, there's a little bit of, I don't know, doubt or whatever. Like I've had some people tell me, I always felt like there was this thing in the back of my head going, they're going to figure out someday you're a fraud. But then the other side of it being, these people are not dumb. It's not lost on them. Like there's a reason that you've been contacted. There's a reason you're in this room or on this Zoom call. This doesn't just happen by, mystery.
I tried not to think about it. I just tried not to think about it too much because the imposter syndrome would set in for sure. Because you're like, I didn't go to film school. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. My film is a small film. I know the bear attack's getting a lot of attention right now, but it's still just two people walking around the woods. Can I handle a big set? Can I handle doing a scene with 12 people in it or whatever? Like, how can I work with two cameras? All this stuff, right? And then, yeah, but not anymore. Now, after doing these 4 movies and slasher and everything, like I definitely feel that less when I'm talking to people about projects and everything. And but it's always having like stuff going on helps too, like have a creative backbone. Like if you go into these meetings where like, if this meeting doesn't happen, I'm screwed. Like you have to have a lot more going on. That helps too a lot. Like it really helps, like work begets work, where you're like, like I optioned this comic book. I wrote the script, and like I have that floating around. I have another script that I wrote and it's attached to this. And like, there's I have this other TV show that I might be a part of. Like there's all these things happening. I'm in prep for something else right now. And my premiere of this new film, This Not a Test, has come, like that helps. That helps you not be feeling desperate. Because the one thing I'm telling you, man, in this business that no one likes is the smell of desperation. 100%.
I
100%. You
I've
can be
heard that before.
You can be nervous. Be nervous. That's great. They like that. You can be excited. You can be passionate. You know, you can't be desperate. Can't be desperate.
I have a million more questions, but I'm obviously conscious of your time, so I'll just ask another one or two questions, and I'll let you get out of here. Why was it important to see Out Come the Wolves come to fruition? I've heard varying different stories about like a trilogy of movies, a concept that you had in your head, and different things like that. I mean, there's quite a gap there between those two things, and it kind of feels like that you never lost that that feeling of, you mentioned how difficult it was getting Backcountry made, but it was like you didn't let that best you, and you continued, and it feels kind of that maybe this had a similar journey in the sense of this was something that you wanted to see on screen.
Yeah. Out Come the Wolves took 10 years to get off the ground. I don't know why. It just did. Starts and stops. It was originally called Wolf at the Door. It was more about domestic violence, domestic abuse, that Anuka Kuma, the writer, and worked on with me. So we had it was a different movie for sure, but that never got traction. It got a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's just, especially after Backcountry, and they read that script, which was very similar in many ways, and that wasn't appealing, I guess. It was just never happening. And then we decided to change the ending of the movie and just make it more palatable. I think this, change the title, Out Come the Wolves, make it more about the metaphor of their relationship, and like it has to end for another one to grow, and the wolves are the nature, it's all they're just the metaphor for the whole movie of ending their friendship so that she can have a new one with this guy that she's in love with. And then they're leaving that guy for dead, and then the wolves set that right. That's why at the beginning it goes like upside down.
Yep.
And I love the sandbox of the forest. I love the woods. I'm so desperate to make a movie with wolves. And I just really wanted to work with Missy Peregrine again. And at one point she couldn't do it, and Corinne Vanasse was attached for a while, and then she couldn't do it. And then Missy came back on, and it just happened, and just all the planets aligned. And then IFC was and Shudder were a huge part of that, because they were involved earlier. They were involved like maybe 3 years earlier on the film, that they wanted to get involved, so they helped. But I wanted Anuka to have her script come to life, and I was so desperate to work with Missy again. And then also finish the trilogy in my head, which was, the Woods, a Woods trilogy. All the backdrop of every film was the woods, essentially. And work with the wall. I worked with the wolves from Game of Thrones. Like, who gets to do that? Team, like Andrew, was amazing. So I wanted to showcase that and just really go for it and make more of a movie like Backcountry, but with high octane, like the Mad Max version of Backcountry in many ways, and just have something just to watch. It's visceral, it's quick, it's fast. It's like a novel, like a thriller novel you'll pick up at the airport and read in like an hour on the plane. But you just go, whew, great, wow, okay. Like it's just a bullet. And that was my objective. And to work with Lee Malia again, who did the music. He did the music for Pyewacket. He's in that band called Bring Me the Horizon, and he's such a talented guy. And we worked together on this latest one too, and he's so talented. So just to bring these people together to make a cool movie with dirt bikes, who wouldn't? But this is the thing. All the movies I was working on or almost got made, none were as appealing to me as Out Come the Wolves. Yeah, I always go back to that. And I knew I was going to get like under the microscope. Like, you just made another animal attack movie, but with wolves. Yes, I did. I wanted to, or I wanted to use real wolves, not CG wolves, and I got criticized for that a little bit with making the same kind of movie. And if you really look at it, they're not, but I'm fine with that. It's like, that's the movie I wanted to make. And some people, it resonated with some people, and some people really enjoyed it. And some people, whatever, they have their own opinions. That's great. But the movie, that's the thing, I can stand by that movie because I love it. I love that movie. And it was so hard to make because if you watch The Wolf Attack, half that attack's in Alberta, another province, and the other half is in Ontario a week later. Stunts with the wolf. No actor ever saw a wolf in that movie. So that was really challenging. And, you know, was very proud of that movie.
You know, having the desire to make that movie and then, you know, being aware that some people would criticize and be like, oh my God, you just made the same movie with wolves instead of a bear and stuff like that. How much of the when Backcountry comes out, you know, you mentioned obviously overnight, it's like everyone wants to be your friend. Everyone wants to have a meeting. Everyone wants to talk to you. Oh, I've got a project. I've got this. I have the rights to something else. How many times, or was there at all, did people, because I couldn't help but think there is no way that like every second phone call wasn't, hey, can you make another Backcountry? Hey, can you make another movie like Backcountry with like, you know, whatever, something else in it or a witch or a thing, but just make it like Backcountry with that thing.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I still get them sometimes, rarely, more rarely now. I was sent every bear movie on the planet. And I was like, I've already made the bear movie. I don't want to make another one. I was attached to this Japanese one for a while because it was different. It was different. I got to rewrite it and I really liked it. It was from a manga, it was from a comic, and thought it was really cool. That never happened though. But I worked on it I was in development on it. But no, I was sent like a killer wild boars to killer snakes, the boa to this. I mean, I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all. Pigs. The wild boar one was insane. It was amazing. But like spiders, every animal attack movie, I was being sent that. So that's the irony that I felt like when I was shopping or, you know, around Out Come the Wolves. It's like, oh, not this one though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Your wild alligator movie or whatever, or you know. But like I met on Anaconda. I was asked to pitch on Anaconda. That ended up.
I was literally going to just mention that.
100%. I could tell you, like it was great. I met them years ago about it, and I just pitched something completely different. I don't know if I can go into it, but it was completely different. It just involved conquistadors, but I'll stop there. And then it ended up being a comedy with Jack Black, and like what's it called, the Tropic Thunder. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's like I did not expect that at all, and I think it's genius. So, but yeah, man, for sure. Oh my God.
It's yeah, I kind of imagine that because I was like, I feel like when somebody gets, you know, highly regarded for a particular thing, it's like all of a sudden, or like something like Slasher has been so well received with the horror community, especially. It's like, you know, then does everybody be like, hey, can you just make like a slasher thing? Can you do like a slasher movie?
Sometimes that works out. Like Eli Roth came to me, who's an awesome person, by the way. Like, of all the people in the industry, like he is, I'm not just saying that, like he says what he's going to do. He, you know, he's a man of his word. Like he's top shelf. I have a lot of respect for him. No, but he that could help though, because he did this VR, this Be Mine thing, which was Slasher. And I loved it. It was very challenging, but he thought of me. And I think Slasher was a big part of that. He's like, come in and do that. And he was very supportive. And I'm very proud of that too. It was very difficult to shoot.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. I got the mask up there too, and the other one. But what a joy.
That's a badass mask.
Oh yeah, I'll show it to you.
That's a cool mask.
This baby, right? I was working on This Is Not a Test, and he brought it.
That's a cool mask.
Yeah, it actually.
That's crazy looking.
We can just talk together.
That's such a cool mask. I was actually only looking at the artwork the other day, and I was like, it's such a it has such like an iconic feel.
Yeah. So then that, you know, doing Slasher, that helped. But then working with Eli was great, and he wrote the script, and so it was like, yeah, that like I'd love to be Scream or something. Of course, like I really wanted to be the one to remake or like reboot I Know You Did Last Summer, but that never happened.
That's another fantastic one. Speaking of Eli, and you know, with the horror section and stuff like that, is that a potential collaboration there? I know he's trying to start champion like other people's
Nothing,
original stuff, but
nothing right now. Nothing right now. No. Um, but I love what he's doing. I think it's
mhm.
great. I mean, it could always be a conversation. I mean, he's, you
Yeah.
know, I love what he's doing though. I love he's bringing these movies up, and he's got one coming called it was whatever called Ice Cream Man. That's been
Hmm.
I think it's going to be great.
Yep.
I saw a little.
Oh
I can't
yeah,
say anything. Oh, all I can say is it's going to be
it's gonna be
awesome.
good.
It's going to be awesome.
That's what we like to hear. You mentioned,
I love the guy.
like Japanese stuff. You mentioned comics, and also obviously your newest movie that's coming. This is not a test. Is um, I don't know how much it's based on the novel or whatever, or how much it's been adapted from that. But I guess to kind of lead into that a little bit as we get to the end here, and based on your process, is that something you do often? Like, do you just go looking for like obscure things, or with this project in particular, is this something that comes to you? Like, did you find the book,
I
or did
found the
somebody
book.
come? Okay, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool because I wrote a pilot called Dead Bell, which was kids in high school, zombies, and all this stuff. It was very different, although I put some of that in the script from my
Mm-hmm.
pilot. The pilot was shopped around. There was some excitement about it. Long story. When I finished the pilot, I was then wondering what else is out there that's high school horror with zombies. I think All of Us Are Dead was in production, or that was announced, and I was like, "Ooh, this Korean
Mm-hmm.
zombie thing." I was like, "Oh, wild!" And then Train to Busan just came out, but there's only high school kids in it, so I was like, okay, it's not in high school. Then I came across this picture of his book by a Canadian writer called Courtney Summers. It's called "This Is Not a Test," and it said zombies in high school. I was like, oh, okay, so I bought it and I read it. I wanted to see what she did or how different it was, or was I just doing tropes that, you know what I mean? You start doing that, right? You don't want to start there. You want to like investigate after, it seems. So you're not
Mm-hmm.
influenced at all, right? And then I read it and I was like, oh, I was relieved at first. I was like, oh, these are very different. Okay, great, great. This is very different. It was very an internal dialogue, very YA. They were in the school most of the time. It was very kind of introspective more than it was visceral and violent. But the visceral of it was the emotion. The emotions of her book were just brilliant. And there's some spikes of zombie stuff that was very, very, very effective. And I loved it because it dealt with like depression, and I could sympathize with that. And I like the character, the whole thing about it. I was like, oh, okay, I put this pilot away. I like this for me. So I reached out to her years ago, and luckily she knew Pyewacket, so it helped get the deal done, I guess, or something. But she already knew some of my films, which can always help. And then we to the shopping agreement, and I went right away and attacked it and wrote this story. And I just made it. I guess there's no voiceover narration, and I really wanted to try to capture the chaos that she has in the beginning, and had more action in it. But the through line is still there with like Sloane and her depression and everything, and how do you find a reason to live at the end of the world? That's the kind of the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But give it more high octane, make it more cinematic. A lot of show don't tell. So sometimes she would say something in the script, very deliberate, and I would show it, not talk about it, kind of thing. And she was part of it the whole time. I sent her drafts all the time. And then it kind of sat around for a while. And then even folks at like Blumhouse looked at it for a little bit, and they're interested for a little bit. But it was very close here and there. It'd bubble up but then it went away. Then I didn't have the rights to the book anymore. But then I met Sybil, who's the producer on the movie, Liu, and she was amazing. She loved the script. She loved the story. She gave a couple of notes, a little bit more of the sister, a little more of that. We were on the same page, and we off to the races. And then IFC was really interested. Shudder was interested, and within the year, we were shooting it. And so yeah,
I know we can't say a huge amount because obviously the movie is yet to come out.
I'll tell you the ending right now.
Yeah, so it's like as much as I want to ask, like, oh, tell me everything and whatever.
Sure, well, I'd love to talk about it.
I would love to talk about it maybe after the movie comes out. It'd probably be a more suitable time to talk about that. two final things before I let you go. You mentioned the process of writing. Like everyone talks about directing, but that skill of being able to sit down and constantly write, and you can have all these ideas, but actually getting them onto the page. How did you learn that skill? Because I have very, very, like in very, very like hobbyist form tried to throw my hat in like structuring things like that, and it's incredibly difficult, I think, if you haven't been taught it in technical terms. It's very hard to like have everything laid out as it should be. Is that something you just like self-taught and just constantly practiced?
It was through osmosis, yeah, for sure. But I was an actor. Like I did a lot of scenes, a lot of scene study. I saw scripts constantly, read scripts constantly because I was given like even before, like right around the birth of the internet, So I was like, I get my auditions on hard copies and stuff like that. But I was always reading scripts, and then you get the job and you're sent the script. And even if I had one line, they'd send me like Nuremberg. There was this movie called Nuremberg back in the late 90s. Alec Baldwin was in it, and like I had like 5 lines with Brian Cox, right? Who's a legend. And then, but they sent me the whole script, and it was like, it was a mini series basically. So it was like, but it was a gift. I read the whole thing, and it was like 220 pages long, but I loved it. So you learn, you see how it's formatted, obviously. But then Final Draft came in, and I also have some writer friends, some close writer friends. What happened was, so at first I struggled so hard to write my first script, my full-length script. I wrote it longhand first, and I put it in Final Draft. It was a disaster, though. It was terrible. And I finished it. I had it cleaned up a bit. I hired an editor just to clean up the formatting and everything. And then I sent it out. I had to read through it, had some friends read it. It was garbage, man. It was terrible. I actually read it recently, and I was so embarrassed. But that's the osmosis thing, right? That's the going, okay, am I going to get better, or am I going to give up? Or is that my fate? So I waited. I said, you know what? I wrote from my head. I wrote what I thought was cool as opposed to in my heart. That's the trick to me. So I waited for the good idea. And I even asked like the universe, like the writing gods, like I need a great idea. I need a great idea that I can hinge on and be passionate about. And I didn't force myself to write because I wasn't a writer naturally at all. And I said, I'm going to wait for the idea to come, and I'll just put it out that I'm available to take in an idea, right? Then it happened. Like I'm from Canada, right? I'm from Quebec originally, but I'm from Canada. And I went camping with my wife, and there was like this heavy animal was walking around the tent in the morning, and I was hoping it was a dog. There's a lot of bears here, right? So this heavy, big animal, it's in the movie essentially, was walking around the tent and walked away. And I was like, holy, I was fucking shitting my pants. And I'm like, that was a fucking black bear. Big one. And then I hit me. I was like, open water in the woods. That's the story. Never been done. Canada doesn't have their version of it. Australia has, and the Americans, Australia has some great ones because they got great wildlife there, right? So they got like, they got the black water, they have the reef. I mean, we can go on and on. Amazing animal attack movies. And you got open water in the States, of course, the crown jewel Jaws. But like, I was like, Canada does not have one, and it's sitting right there. And I knew it. I fucking knew it. So that was the idea. Then I started writing, and I wrote from my heart. I was very like vulnerable, like a lot of like the Alex is me, a lot of Jen is me. So I just was like, you're almost like vulnerable when you're writing it. So it's not like a thesis or anything. It's not like a work for school. It's like you're writing, like it's almost like a diary. It's like embarrassing, right? When people read it, it's like, oh, this is how you think. That's okay. That's what they want. So I remember I finished it. And like I told you, I was having a really hard time structurally writing it as just like formatting, or like it was hard to get through like a paragraph to write it, succinctly, because I wasn't used to it. I was so much younger, and I almost gave up. I was like, what's the point? My first script sucked. Like I told you earlier, I was like going to close my computer and never open it again. But I knew this is the moment. I was sitting in a Starbucks, and I'm like, if I don't finish the sentence, I'll never finish the script. But I finished it, and I had epiphanies along the way. like him wanting to bring her there to propose to her. That happened as I was writing it. I realized they're on the hill. They got lost. And I'm like, it just hit me that why they were there to propose. The red herring was always there with the Irish guy, right? That was,
Of course, yeah.
probably with a bad accent, you know, but I liked working with him. He was good. Eric was really good. I enjoyed him, his accent. But that whole thing was like, you know, what Alex really wants to be. He's being like his manhood's being pushed around, all this stuff, right? So all that was there. And then because I loved Wolf Creek as well, there's a bit of that in that scene, right? So
Yeah.
I love Derek Sanfran. So as I was writing about the relationship, he's probably my favorite contemporary director. And Blue Valentine, I would pitch it saying, don't think of it as a horror film. Think of it as Blue Valentine in the woods with a bear attack. They're like, oh, so like you get the grants that way more, right? Like, what's that? Some schlocky crap bear attack movie. There's actually like there's a heart here. There's a story to be told. So, and then I remember I finished it, and the first person I showed it to is my wife. And my wife's brutally honest. She's the one that couldn't even finish my first script. She thought it was so bad. She read it and she thought it was great. And I was like, you're seriously? She was like, yes. She's like, it's really good. I was like, I was shocked. Then I had a read through with my friends, a lot of my actor friends and writer friends. And there's like, 10 of us around a table, and you could feel it. You could feel it. And one of my very close friends who's a writer was like, oh, I think this is going to get made. And he meant it. Like, it wasn't like, good.
Yeah.
But I struggled. So after Backcountry, it was such a struggle to make that movie, get it made, write the movie. It got easier. By the time I was writing Pyewacket, I knew how to, like, I had an outline first. I knew where I was going. So I started doing that. So it was more of a joy to write. So I'd write the outline first as a story. Then I wrote the script instead of just like Backcountry. I didn't know how it was going to end. I knew there was going to be a bear attack, but I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't know what they were doing. I was just going along watching the movie with them, right, as I was writing. But now, like, I'll write a script in a month or something. Like I optioned this comic. I'll write the outline. So I do it more like I have to get 5 pages a day. I don't read back. I don't look back at my draft at all until I finish. Then I go back and I clean it all up. And then I reread it, and the rewriting is the fun part. So I just go, I don't care. It's going to be bad or whatever. I knew the scenes. I know the structure. I know the scenes, what's happening. I would just at least 5 pages a day. It has to be 5 and I can stop. Sometimes it's 10. Sometimes I'm inspired and it's 12. But sometimes I struggle. I just get to 5 and I'm like, okay. But I like structured every day, and then it's done. Then I clean it up, and then so I have 2 right now like that. I finished recently. And that's it.
Yeah, I've definitely been told that multiple times. It's like you need to, because I've been sitting on 2 different books. They're non-fiction books, and I've been sitting on one in particular, and I've done all this work in like maybe a year and a half. And then I hit like a block, and I just haven't been able to. And so many people just said, no, you just finish the entire thing and then worry about like the problem you have with the first thing that you've done, or you don't like the way that is. I want to change everything. Just finish it first. And I'm like, it's just that, I don't know, getting over that like mental block to be like, okay, I'm gonna sit down. I'm just gonna see this thing out, and then I'll reread it and I'll figure out what I.
Yeah, because that's why I don't read it back. I don't read it back as I go. I don't. Because I would stop. That would put my own roadblocks in front of me. Like I'm seeing the finish line. So, and it's so much fun to read it back because you're like, oh, that worked better than I thought, or that doesn't work. And you start seeing the whole thing. And what I was doing with Pyewacket for the first time was really at every scene, I felt the whole story. So that's what I was learning to do. In Backcountry, I didn't do that. In the first script, I didn't, where every scene, the whole story is in the back of my mind always. It's like it's subconsciously. It's almost like subconscious. It's like it's there. It has to be there somewhere. Every scene is the whole story. I'm feeling how it fits in, even though I'm focused on the micro of the scene instead of the macro of everything. But it's always present. So it's connective. Does it make sense?
Isn't it wild to think that if you just one motion of closing that laptop
Like
screen, that
for
like
sure.
things could be just vastly different?
I for sure, because it was that close, and I wouldn't have picked it up again. I know it, because I was
That
like,
it's
I was so
just
down
like,
about it. I'm like, I did short films, they didn't really do well. I don't know if I'm good at it. The other script sucked. Why am I wasting my time? I'm wasting my time. That
that
was
last time you said
one of
that, it
these.
gave me chills.
Yeah, and I just that close, and I was like, okay, wait, just if I do that, it's over. So let's just. But it's like I realized too, writing is just good days, there's bad days. Sometimes it flows, sometimes it doesn't. And then you just get there, and then it's hard. Then you learn too. Like I finished this one called The Dark House, and I love the script, but some people really liked it, and I thought maybe it would have more traction by now, and it doesn't. But there's nothing you can do, right? It's just like I worked so hard on it, and I love it, and then you show people, and you think they'd want to make it, and they're like, no. So you get used to that too. After all this work, it's a good story, like it's just it happens all the time.
Yeah, you have to make peace with that.
Yeah, and also if we finish, I'll leave you with this. Like Backcountry, do you know? It worked out with Missy, which is amazing, but so many actresses passed on that role, man.
Which is like,
To never
I
give up.
wonder, I wonder, do some of them now though? Is it like the reverse of that? You're like, you know what? I read for that movie and I passed on that, and ooh, that's a real kick in the stones.
Well, it's you don't hope for that really. It's you can't to be honest, it is kind of a good feeling sometimes because like, oh, you passed on me, you thought it was crap, and then then look at there you go. But you can't live your life like that. But there's a little bit of a what is it, the Schadenfreude they say, like so we're human. Well, it happened. It happened early because we needed a name to get the movie made. We needed a name. And at the time, for some reason, Missy's name wasn't big enough, but it became okay. She was known enough to be okay with the foreign sales and everything, but I definitely wanted her so bad. So we went through all these other names. I just wanted Missy, but it was hard to get her on the list. It's all this game thing, especially foreign sales. So some of the names I didn't even know that were approved. So there's moments of like, oh, I can't cast her. I'm not gonna say their names, but like if I cast her, it's not my movie at all. I'm not making the movie. So it was stuff like that for sure. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that a joke? Come on, So
Yeah.
And some were great too. But like, oh, that'd be good. And some are. I don't think I should say names, but like one was going to be attached, and a big name, and then they just backed out. I don't know what happened, but it was meant to be for Missy. But it was very struck. It was so bad at one point because even people we knew that were friends that had names at this point, that had valuable names, who I knew, I went to acting class with, read it, and they passed. They're just like, they thought it was going to be really cheesy because you see the script, first time director, a bear attack movie like that. It's probably going to be like a really bad sci-fi channel movie or something.
Yeah, I could see that. Like,
so I don't blame them because I don't have no proof. They haven't seen a proof of concept. They don't know my films. They don't know what I'm going to do. They thought it was going to be a disaster. No faith. Missy had faith, but they didn't have faith. It was so bad too. It was one of the grants that's no longer here in Canada. One of the grants passed on us to help us fund the movie. But when they came to TIFF and saw the movie, they gave us a letter of an apology. It was great.
That's pretty satisfying.
Anytime we wanted money after that, they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. Because they too didn't think so. Anyway, I'm saying all this because there's a happy ending, but also you have to believe in yourself. So yes, one of the actresses I talked to on the phone, and she read it, whatever, but she passed. And we got to a point, man, where even Thomas, the producer, called me. It was like, if we don't have someone by next week, we're shutting down. And the movie never would have got made. We were a week and a half away from shutting down. I could not sleep. Then I said, so to Thomas's credit, he knew how much I wanted Missy. He went to bat. He went to the foreign salespeople and everybody and said, oh my God, like we need Missy. And then Missy was approved. So I was excited, but she didn't know about the project at all. I barely knew her. I just worked with her and Rookie Blue a little bit. We hung out a couple of times, but I barely knew her. She could have been on vacation in Australia. I didn't know. but it's just worked out. I said, here's the script. She's like, sure, great, I'll read it. Da-da. And then I said, it starts shooting like soon. She's like, I have to let you know in the next, like, I go 3 days. And she goes, okay. And then she wrote me a note saying, I only do projects I'm passionate about. I'm sorry. Like, just know that before I read it, if I pass, it's nothing personal. And I was like, oh no.
Don't tell me that. Don't
tell me
with
that to start. But she connected to it. And then she called me and she goes, I only have one question. She showed it to her mom, and her mom said, I was like, you should do this. So I'm very indebted to her mother for that too. She came on. I was through the roof, so happy if we were going to make the movie. And she's like, I have one question before I sign on. She's like, are you using a real bear or not a real bear? And I said, a real bear. She's like, I'm in. Basically.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Well, she's like, if she did not want, she probably would have said no. If I said no, we're using an animatronic bear or a fake bear. She's like, I want authenticity.
Yeah, so you can really feel that in the movie. Before I ask my final question, I did have one other thing that's popped into my mind the instant we started talking, and I've seen it from other interviews, other shows and stuff you've been on. Have you always been this energetic? Like, I feel like obviously we've met for the first time virtually, but I can almost feel I don't know, there's like I don't know, an aura or whatever, like people are going to think I'm brown nosing, but like I walk away from the rarer conversation I have like this with a real, like, I feel reinvigorated. Like, I don't know, I feel like you have a real, I don't know, zest or a passion for life or whatever. Have you always been like that?
That's a wild question.
I know it's a weird thing to ask somebody, but
I'm shy right now. No, I'm almost like embarrassed how much energy I have sometimes. Sometimes it puts people off, but I always, I have ups and downs, of course. The truth is, I wasn't always like this. No, for sure. I just really quickly, I went through like a really bad depression in my teens that I almost didn't come out of. That's why I really like This Is Not a Test. Like I literally almost didn't wake up. It wasn't for like my roommate. I probably wouldn't be here. Okay. So pretty dark stuff. And I'm here. So when I woke up, I'm still here. And basically just, since then, every day's a gift. So that's how I live my life.
Nice. I like that. That's 2 times you've got me with chills. No,
that's the truth. Yeah. Like, I was not like this before. No, nowhere near. So I think, I owe it to life to live it. So
that's another one of those, crossroad moments. I think I've been there myself. I was a dad from a very, very young age.
Oh, wow.
My life was just on a spiral up to that point, and then that happened, and it was like one of those things. So I can really relate to that, and that's why I always like I said, not everybody I have conversations with, I get that, but there's the odd person I kind of get this vibe from, and I'm like, you know what, like, things ain't so bad, and like you said, like, life, I owe it to life to live it, not to just lie down and just let it consume me or whatever.
Every time I feel that way, I always feel like The Edge with Anthony Hopkins, The Edge, which is a huge influence on Backcountry. I saw it in the theater. That was it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Every time I'm down a bit, everybody gets down. I always hear his voice yelling in that movie when he yells, "Do you want to just lay down and die, Bob?" And then he yells it again. He says it twice. He's like, "You want to lay down and die, Bob?" Then he yells, "Do you want to lay down and die, Bob? Is that what you want to do?" It's like, do you want to lay down and die? No. So you keep going. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's important for other people as well to hear that, because I always get messages from the show after a guest has been on, like, they mentioned something that might have resonated, or something that was said that was like, you know what, it made me think this, or it made me feel that, or even like some of your movies, people tie it to life experiences, escapism, all that kind of stuff. Final question before I let you go is, why horror, and what does it mean to you? Why that style? Why the kind of raw, real, visceral stuff? What is it for you personally that draws you to that?
Right before I answer that, I'm sure Danny Boyle has a lot of energy too. I got a feeling he's full of.
He was the other. There's probably
he's a gem.
3 people, and he was the other one. And the dude is.
I mean, that's my. 70. I love that. Is he really? Jesus. Yep. What? Oh, anyway, okay. and congrats on interviewing him too. I think
Thank
it's
you.
cool. Why horror? Really quickly, horror. Okay, it was my introduction really to something of film, the deepest emotion, like Evil Dead, right? So I saw Evil Dead, rocked me, changed me. Then I saw The Shining, too young, and I saw Friday the 13th Part 3, too young. Those movies just screwed me up. But then I was like, I started liking that feeling and started chasing it and looking, like, I watch Michael Myers, then you start watching the Halloweens, right? And then you start discovering more, and then you start like you see Dawn of the Dead for the first time, you see the Return of the Living Dead for the first time, you see Night of the Living Dead for the first time, and I was actively looking to feel that feeling again, which is very strange, to get scared again. So what I love about it now is like, it is, to me, personally, it's what I think is the best tool. Is the best tool to work out kind of like whatever, like, I'm searching for my words here, because you can work out like a metaphor for the struggles you have in life anyway. It's the perfect backdrop. To me, it's the perfect backdrop to tell the story that's not exactly what the story is about, so that you can ingest it in a different way. Like the zombies are the perfect example of that. It touches on our visceral primal fears like no other storytelling. And when it's done right, and there's so many different like elements to it that you can draw from. You can get like the physical, you can get the emotional, you can get the psychological impact that no other genre to me can touch. But it bleeds them into thriller as well, like Silence of the Lambs or The Vanishing. It does it that way, or The Ring with psychological. It's a PG-13 film, but that also films like, and the acting, you can see performances like in Weapons, which I think is a brilliant movie. Amy Madigan's performance in that, it's hypnotic. It's beautiful. Like, I don't get that from any other movie, like action movies or sci-fi movies. I don't, even though sometimes they meld, of course, like Aliens is a good example. But when there's a horror element, when there's a dark thriller element, it touches me more than any other genre. So that said, that's why I want to make them, because I want to give the audience the feeling I get. That's it. So when Backcountry, like I called it the shower. I wanted it to be the shower scene of Bear Attacks, right?
Yeah.
So I'd go to the theater, went to TIFF, and one woman ran out, passed out in the lobby, and an ambulance came, and I was like, did the producer plant that? There's no way. No, it was 100% authentic. And then I felt bad for the woman, but no. And it was in the New Yorker wrote about it. Like, and I was like, oh my God, that's the Exorcist moment.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm done.
Yeah.
No, that's it. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give the feeling to people that I felt, that emotional visceralness, but also like that fear, like you're shaking, that deep fear. Like even when I saw Jurassic Park, which is not really a horror film, but I saw it in the theater when it first came out. And when that T-Rex comes out and there's no music, like the Bear Attack was built on that a little bit, that there's no music. It's all the music and it's sound design, is the roar and all that stuff. That's the propulsion of it, not the music. It's the environment you're in and you're hearing everything, and the bear, and I was terrified. I was like 14. I was young, but and I was like, that sequence was incredible, and I want to give that to someone. So that's why.
I love that, and you can definitely feel that from your movies.
I hope this
Adam,
is not a test, does it too?
So do I. The links will be down below for everybody listening, where you'll be able to link to find out all the information about the new movie. This is not a test. I would love to. I'll extend an olive branch now. I know the next while is probably going to be crazy for you, but maybe in time we could chat once the movie has come out, and we can get more in depth or whatever about that. And maybe you'll have some other stuff that we can talk about, because it sounds like you're spinning several plates at the one time. So maybe there'll be some more stuff to talk about. It's been great. I really do appreciate your time. I know we've gone way over the amount of time, but I do genuinely appreciate it. It's been an honor to be able to chat with you finally.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I absolutely loved our conversation. So appreciate you listening to my stories.
Likewise, man. It's been